Hey strangers, welcome to a succulent new episode of the Strange Sessions. As always, I am Kurt, and I am joined by my longtime co-host, Krista. Hi, Krista.
Hi, Kurt.
And today we have with us special guest co-host making his much anticipated return to the podcast is my brother, Kory Konecny.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I don't know about the fact that I feel like everybody's energy just got sucked out of them because when they hear like a guest.
No, people like it. I got so many good comments about your
the one where I couldn't be on it or why I was here,
where your
but
voice was shot.
Yeah,
Ben McDaniel.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
But
everybody just loves the way you guys interact. So I think putting a third person in there.
I think people like it because it mixes it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
people are sick of me.
People are sick of me. Kory, just do the show from now on by yourself.
All right. See you guys.
It actually worked out really good because with starting my new job, I didn't know if I was going to have time to do research. And I was talking to Kory, and Kory said, well, I'm on vacation. So it just worked out perfect that Kory is going to do a story and Krista is going to do a story. And I'm just going to hang out and drink my coffee. And
is this the first time you haven't done one?
Yeah.
He gets to be me this episode.
I get to be Krista this episode and just be like, that's interesting.
Contribute absolutely
That's a
nothing.
head scratcher. That is a real head scratcher.
Say it's interesting at least 100 more times and you got it down.
So thank you so much, Kory, for coming on.
You're welcome.
I want to give shout outs to our newest strangers. Those are Victoria Mays Hovick, Kim Howard, Justin Andrew Barstow, Kirsten Herman, Carly Sinclair, Julie Harker, Sarah Juden Hussein, Jonathan Davis, which I think that's like
lead singer of Korn.
Yeah, that's the lead singer of Korn.
Wow.
He actually he said we didn't need to give him a shout out. Too late.
Well, too bad.
Too bad because he used to be, I think, on a different
name.
It's probably the government watching us.
Oh, definitely.
It's probably government. We're on to you, Jonathan Davis.
I mean, we're not going to do anything about it, but we're on to you.
This name I think is cool. Laura. It's Lorial. L'Oreal.
Lorelei?
No, Lorial. I think that's a cool name.
It is.
L'Oreal. I think it's L'Oreal Knack and Megan Hay, who joined because she lives in Idaho.
Yeah.
So
she's proving that Idaho
exists. She's proving that
exists.
Idaho does exist. And we're coming around to believing that Idaho is a thing. So thank you so much, you guys, for joining the strangers. Housekeeping. I know you wanted to talk about Xander's podcast. One of our longtime listeners, Xander, has started a podcast because he loves ours. Mm-hmm. And I haven't listened to it yet. You've listened to it.
I've listened to the first episode. It's called Xander and Stone. And the first episode is about sleep paralysis. And I think they did a great job. They have really good chemistry. He's from South Africa, but he lives in China. And he's been emailing us about this for a while.
Yes.
Like he wanted advice, and then he emailed us earlier this week saying he finally did it.
Yeah, I love that he said he's an audio stalker.
Yeah, he audio stalks
because he listens to us all the time.
He says if he's home, we're on in the background, which is so flattering.
That is.
And side note, if you're a fan of the show Lucifer, he sounds just like Lucifer, which is the actor Tom Ellis. So
yeah, I downloaded it because I really only listen to podcasts in my car on my flash drive, so I have to download them as MP3s. So
I've been listening at work a little bit.
Yeah, I can't.
But anyway, well done, Xander and Stone.
Yep.
Great. It was a good episode.
So I'm excited to listen to it, and just thank you so much. And I'm so glad you did it.
It's just
I'm so glad that we motivated so many people to do podcasts.
They're like, if those punks can do it.
Those clowns, if anybody can. What else do we have? My job, I wanted to give an update on my job. It's going good, but I am just super, super exhausted because it's a whole new world than what I'm used to, and I'm still learning stuff, and I've barely been eating because I'm so nervous, but it's going good, I think. I really like the kids that I'm like monitoring their lunches and stuff, and it's like nobody really knows what they're doing right now, so I don't feel like completely out of the loop. But it is going good. But like I said, I was like, well, maybe I could do some research for a mini mystery this week, and then I had one of my teeth busted.
Oh yeah.
So I have a huge chunk.
Did you get all signed up for insurance and all that?
I got insurance, but I have to wait 2 weeks for my checkup.
At least you're not in pain though.
No, I'm not in pain. So that's one good thing because I'm not a real big tolerator of pain. I'm kind of a baby.
You are.
Kory will vouch for that. And a good friend of mine that I worked with at my last job died. Yeah. So that hit me kind of hard because she was kind of my go-to person to talk to. but I had the funeral this week. Coolest funeral I've ever been to. There was
Really?
beer and hot dogs and German potato salad.
Dang.
So that's my kind of
That's a
funeral.
celebration of life.
That is a celebration of life. That's what I want you guys to do when I die.
Yeah.
Try.
Okay.
You can eat.
We'll party hard.
Eat weird stuff, and
Oh, it'll be one big taste test.
it's just one big taste test. Other housekeeping, we've had a lot of people lately try adding people to the strangers, and we don't let people add people to the strangers. They have to listen to the podcast.
Yeah, we really want it to be just for people who listen. Yes, we want it to be
just people who listen to the podcast. So anytime somebody tries to add somebody, it just automatically gets denied. And we have been talking about our Route 66 trip. We've been planning that and looking into that. Carly, our stranger in Australia who sent us the Vegemite, asked me, she said not this summer, but the next summer after this one, she's coming to the States because she is a huge fan of the movie The Sandlot.
So 2022?
Yes.
Okay.
She's a huge fan of the movie The Sandlot. And she wants to come to Utah to tour where it was filmed, and she asked if I would go with her.
Oh, that's cool.
So I totally would. I've always wanted to see Utah. Utah sounds amazing. So maybe before we do that, we'll get the Strange States, Utah, and then look into some of that stuff. And is there any other housekeeping? A lot of people have asked what I meant by getting questioned by the military last time. And it's because
there are these youth cadets that are here.
Navy cadets that are here at the building all the time. Like lately, they've been here almost all the time. And for some reason, last time, they were just weird. They the guards stopped us and asked us who we were and wanted identification and stuff. And it's like, dude, we've been working here for the last
4 years.
4 years doing a podcast, And then we pulled up today and it's like, cool, nobody's here, but they're here.
Yeah.
So
it'll be more low key today.
Yeah.
I think the only housekeeping I have is about the mugs.
Yes.
So thank you to everybody who responded about wanting a mug. We've got the first 8 people who responded, obviously, and then we have a waiting list as well. But more mugs have been made and are curing now because they have this thing that they paint on the outside that will protect them from wear and tear.
Yeah.
But we're still trying. Bear with us. This is our first merchandise. We're new at this. I'm still trying to figure out just the shipping situation and how we're going to accept payments. So
I mean, just
be patient. It took us 4 years to get this far.
Just put it on the mantle for now. Once we break the story that Maura Murray's alive and she comes on for an interview, we're going to have tons of listeners, and those are going to be worth big money on eBay.
Yeah, somebody else can sell them for us.
Yeah, then we'll hire somebody. We can hire somebody for that.
I saw Kory very interested in the clam decanes. I think he should try one.
I think he was more interested. He was looking at the mug than the clam. Did you try the clam decanes?
I did not, and that mug might be gone.
Kory's gonna steal our mug?
No,
it's an old prototype.
If you eat all those clam decanes.
Where are the mugs?
That's a good question.
Somebody broke in and took the mugs?
Did we put them in the closet? I bet they're in the closet.
Yeah.
They better be in the closet.
Somebody
we did leave them here.
Somebody stole our mugs.
It'd be really weird. If
Sorry, people. No mugs. Somebody stole them.
They're buying other colors too. So I think there's some red and black mugs, and then they have white lettering on them. Yeah,
it's just us dipping our feet into the whole merchandise thing.
So I apologize if we're a little slow at getting those mugs going.
Yeah, but we also prefer to do something that, with a personal touch. We don't just want to have some company in the middle of nowhere.
Well,
slap a logo on.
Eventually we'll do that.
Yes, eventually we'll do that.
Easier.
That'll be easier.
No, I do have we have a longtime friend whose family owns a business that sells promotional items and creates promotions. So I would love to support them because they are a locally family-owned business in Wisconsin, not in this area. But wow, that was a lot of talking for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Kory, any housekeeping?
I don't think housekeeping, but one thing that for me is being in the position I'm in, I'm not the official intern. I never got that title.
I don't think anyone did yet.
First and foremost, I'm a fan as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to be here, and with you being my brother, obviously, there's background information. I know what podcasts are coming up or the topics.
Yeah.
I know ones you're looking at. I know some of the background stuff.
Yeah, you generally know more about what we have upcoming than anybody else.
Probably more than me.
Yeah, you probably do know more than Krista.
With that, it's weird. So from your point of view to the fans, this is going to be like a housekeeping for the state of the podcast, is that the fans should really know that you guys are super sincere. Thank you. You hold the fans with a lot of reverence and almost love
for
what they do. and the amount of times they post on
Yes.
the Facebook page, for the amount of times they interact with sending things, the other social media accounts, that if there's any fans out there listening, I want them to really understand that you guys really care about it.
Well, thank you. We
And
do.
you put a lot of work into it.
We genuinely do.
We don't even like calling them fans.
No.
No, okay.
Just
That feels too
like you
like,
heard when
you know.
when she picked us up at the park and ride, you heard that a lot of our talk on the drive here was about
Yeah,
our
like-
certain fans and like who's doing what, who sent
Yeah.
us this, who sent us this, and
Yeah,
how
so
awesome it is.
If there's any people out there, strangers or just people that maybe don't do the social media accounts that just listen, you guys really love the fact that you're a tight-knit kind of closed but yet open group where you guys can interact, and it's
Yeah.
not to the point where it's out of hand, and everybody that interacts with you guys seem like it's a one-on-one interaction.
Yeah.
You know, so then to flip that, like I said, first and foremost, I'm a fan as well. So I look forward to the new releases of the episodes and all the things that are going on with that. So as a fan, you know, I love the fact that all those people are posting things.
Yes.
So it's kind of I'm seeing both sides of it.
Yeah.
And I see that how much they love and look forward to
Yeah.
the podcast coming out and the interactions you guys have with them. And then by telling the listeners that you guys feel that same way as well, you know, I just wanted that to come across that it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
And like
Thank
where it's
you.
at right now,
Yeah.
I think it's super important
Yeah.
and super fun what you guys are doing. So to see both sides of it and both the respect and reverence for each other, I think it's awesome.
Well,
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. I'm
Aw.
going to cry. That's,
We have a fear of getting too big and losing this
but
sort
I feel
of
like,
intimacy
I feel like we
have.
don't, because I feel like some people do drift away from posting a lot, but then
They
new
do.
people come.
We have had people who have kind of disappeared.
But I know people have said that that's one of the things they love about the show is that we're sincere, that
Mm-hmm.
we really are, you know, we're never going to think we're too big for our britches, and
Right.
we're never going to, because there's people that just throw out a podcast and want ratings and want numbers.
They
and
want
we-
more
we-
listeners.
and don't care really about who listens.
I'm excited.
And
We get a
do.
new person on the Strangers, and I'm like, oh my god, we
Yeah,
have another one.
it's usually our morning thing.
And it's
like,
not
we get
because
up in
we're
the morning-
excited about numbers.
It's because we're excited that people
excited.
actually care
Yeah.
to listen.
People
so
are listening.
It is, like you said, it's a very, I think, unusual and a very good dynamic we have between us and our listeners.
It's a mutual admiration.
It is.
society.
Yeah, it
it's,
really
you
is.
know, you have to look at somebody like Joe Rogan, the amount of followers he has and the amount of work he puts into it. You just can't interact with everybody. And then you get labeled, you know, now with his move to Spotify, he's a sellout.
Yeah.
So you guys, no matter what, and I know what happens in your podcast as well, is that, you know, you get labeled or you might not want to talk about a subject that somebody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Or you spend too much time with this babbling in the beginning of the podcast, which I'm sure people are
We have
obviously.
been accused of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like,
But
you
there's
know,
so many people that say that they
That's
didn't
their
like that at
favorite part.
first, and then
Yeah.
they end up liking it because
Yeah,
it's
and
like listening to two friends that they get to know us.
Yeah, and that's
You
why I
know?
saw it. I thought, you know, being able to see it from both sides and being able to
I
express.
never really
that.
thought about that though. That's right, because you have a lot of the insider. Like
I
you
do.
know everything that's going on, but you also love listening to the podcast when it's released.
So, and that's what I wanted to come across from you to the fans. Sorry, fans. You to the listeners, that, you know, you guys are super sincere about it. And then also being a fan that, you know, I don't post a lot on Facebook. Like we said on the car ride here, I would get rid of my entire Facebook account if it wouldn't be for your podcast website.
It's understandable because I don't.
But just seeing, you know, I log in maybe twice. Oh, there's a strange noise. I have to investigate. I log in twice a day maybe, and every time it's the first notification that somebody has posted or commented or even emojied, if that's a word, you know, another person's post. So it really is thriving, you know, more or less.
Well, thank you.
We have a nice little Strange family.
We
sure.
do. We have such an amazing family. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
That's something
It's nice to hear.
It is really nice to hear. Something that we need to hear once in a while. Speaking of our awesome listeners, we have a package to open from.
I think since you're me today, you should open it.
I'll open it from
Okay.
Stranger Chris.
Are you going to struggle? Are you going to struggle?
You have to
with
grunt
this?
at least once.
I shouldn't. I have my sweet multi-tool.
I use it every week, and I still end
And
up
I'm
struggling.
having a hard time opening my multi-tool. Easy as that. Krista rolls her eyes
Figures.
at me. Oh, and I almost cut myself with my multi-tool.
So
All right, maybe I didn't do as good as I thought.
You poked through the packaging tape, but didn't go all the way from front to
Right.
back.
Your technique
Because
is
I'm
lacking.
afraid of cutting what's inside of here.
Oh.
Because I don't really know what this is.
Yeah, we don't know if it's food or.
I think it's something she might have made for us.
A human
Who
femur?
is this again?
Yeah, human femur. That would be
Whoa.
interesting.
Who is this again?
Chris
Last.
Hedden.
Oh, okay.
It'd be awesome if a serial killer sent us like a femur. And we'd be,
Did you say that'd be awesome?
yeah, because then we'd be like in this investigation.
Okay, we're
could do
now
like
part
a-
of the crime.
Yeah, well, I meant more like in a Scooby-Doo fun
Oh,
kind of way, not in like a realistic kind of way.
Jankies.
All right, this
See,
is
he's
harder.
struggling.
This is harder. than
Krista
it
would have got it done a long time ago.
Totally. He was too cocky going in.
It might be a femur. Oh, wow. This is cool. She made this.
Oh. The suspense is killing me. It's like Christmas morning. We should save all these packing materials. I'm frugal.
It is seriously like a fifth grader opening up like the best Christmas present ever. There's wrapping on the floor,
It's wrapping all
everywhere.
over
It's
the
little
everywhere.
sweat on the brow trying to get into
Can
it.
you see the sweat on the brow?
Oh, I don't.
Don't look.
Ow. Oh, wow. I just got hollered at.
It's going to be a surprise.
Okay. Maybe if you ever get it out.
All right, I'm having a hard time getting it out, so I'm going to show it to them. Oh, I think it's... Oh, no.
What?
It broke. It broke in the mail.
Okay. It does say fragile
Yeah.
on it. Can it be fixed? Oh my God. She made that?
I believe she made that.
No. Are you serious?
Wow.
Yeah,
Like she carved it?
I think so.
It's a Bigfoot
It is-
figurine
it
made
is
out
a-
of wood? Is it?
But it did break in the mail.
Like
I'm super
Oh,
annoyed
yeah,
that that
it
broke.
is. He broke at the knees.
that could be
I
fixed.
think it
Totally,
could be
this could be
glued.
fixed.
I
If
think
it's
it can
wood,
be
it could be
glued.
wood glue.
I don't think it's wood.
If it's plastic, you have super glues.
I can't tell what it is. It's heavy.
That's very impressive.
I don't want to
It
take it
is
out.
super impressive.
I'm afraid
Holy
to
cow.
take it out, so I'm gonna. There's so many innuendos happening right now. Okay, I'm gonna take a picture because I don't want to remove it from the box. Oh, this is so cool.
Let's leave it in the box, and next
have to.
time we come, let's bring glue.
This is amazing.
Like it's not shattered; it's like cracked
No,
in certain
like-
places.
The arms and a foot and the knees. So he's like in one piece, but clearly, I think if we removed him from the box, he would come apart.
I mean, basically, it looks like an 8-inch Bigfoot action figure, but it looks like it's carved out of
Yes.
wood,
Wood?
and it's just
stained?
cracked at the knees,
Yeah, and
but
he's
it's
holding
still
a
standing
fish.
upright.
Yeah, so I think if we glue that,
It's amazing.
that should be okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? Isn't it
Look at
awesome?
the hands. This is incredible. Wow. Thank you.
Yes.
My gosh.
Thank you.
Now we need shelving in here because this has to stay here.
We could put it by the
The coffee maker.
coffee maker.
Careful. Oh, fragile. Must be Italian. It's an Italian Bigfoot.
Oh, thank you so
Even
much.
Gorilla Glue, probably.
Yeah.
That is
That's
impressive.
amazing.
Thank you so much, Chris.
That
This
might
is
be one of the
awesome.
best things anyone
Yes.
has ever sent
Yep.
us. Oh, I have to do it.
There you go. Did you get a picture of it?
2.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm kind of blown away right
I
now.
think with glue, I think we should be okay.
I think so too. Okay, taste test. We're
Thank
already
you.
20
Oh,
minutes in,
Do
but
you want to do the...
taro?
Yeah.
Here.
Or we could skip the taro this time if you want.
No, we can't. It's
Okay.
part of our show now.
Okay.
Damn it. Okay, so this is for Kory, right?
Okay, yep.
So do you have a question you want to ask, like a yes or no question, or should we just do like a what should Kory be thinking about today or something like that?
Yeah, let's do that one. I don't really have any yes or no.
Okay. What should Kory be focusing on today?
I think we're going a little long with our intro, but we should be okay because Krista said her story's not very long.
It's 2 pages. Because
I love that Bigfoot.
It's amazing. I can't believe I can't believe anybody would go out of their way to buy us something, but to make us something is just incredible.
I think she made that. I'm not 100% sure if she made it or not.
I mean, even if you bought it, that's easily, several dollars
Yes.
worth.
Oh yeah.
So it's, somebody going out of their way to do that is
Crazy.
Wow.
Chris, I'll be messaging you probably today, and just let me know about this, because this is seriously
Today,
astounding.
as in the day we're recording, or the day you release this?
Today's the day we're recording. I'll message
Okay.
her. But it's seriously astounding. I love it.
So you got the Four of Swords.
Okay.
So it's a little lamb with a sun in his forehead,
Wow. That's one of the things I like about the tarot cards is the way they're
depicted.
yeah.
This
artistic.
is a really
and-
beautiful set too. It's a popular one.
Oh, Kurt was smirking.
I was smirking a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Though threatening swords loom above, the lamb sits in stillness without fear. The Four of Swords says it's time to look inward and find the mental power to cope with the pressures. It's important to rest. That's weird.
Anybody that knows us knows that you're the one that has all the
Yes,
stress in the
but
family, and
it's
I have
important to
zero.
rest. Kind of ties in what you and I were talking about with your sleep pattern right now
That's
with
true.
the kids and school.
Yeah.
Corey's having a really hard time because the kids have different schedules for school, and he gets like 3 hours of sleep after
Oh.
working.
Jeez.
Yeah,
You
I
work
Like
at
6 at night till 6 in the morning.
Okay.
He works at the nuclear
And I have to
Holy.
take the kids to school. And
so do you work
it's-
3/12s?
The most I ever work in a row is 3/12s.
Wow.
And then I have 2 days off, and then I work 2 days, and then off 2 days.
And
work
then
So
it
you get
says-
home at 6 in the morning and your kids are getting ready to go to school.
Yep. There's
Oh,
one day
man.
a week where I got to take them. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. So then I have to sleep till 11 to pick up my daughter.
Wow.
And then I try to sleep again for another hour or two before I have to pick up my son.
I couldn't do that.
And then I go back
No.
into work. I go back into work that night and work another 6
So
p.m.
you
to
get
6 a.m.
this is pretty where it says
It
it's
is.
important to rest. Seek meditation or find literature that focuses on ways to quiet your mind. Take this time to recuperate and move inward before these swords strike.
Wow.
So
Nice.
that
It is.
that
It
is
is
spot on.
oddly. I
Accurate.
find it oddly accurate
Yeah.
when I do it.
Very
for
cool.
Sure.
All
Except
right.
the ones I've been pulling lately. I don't get it.
we're going to do 2 taste tests. These are both from I do have wrapping all over the place. These are both from April.
We need to do some actual housekeeping.
Yes, we do. These are both from April.
Okay.
This one, Kory and I have both already had, but Krista hasn't. And this is actually one of my favorite potato chips.
Mine as well.
It is
Voodoo.
Zapp's New Orleans kettle style voodoo chips.
Are they spicy?
They're it's weird because I've been reading like people review them and say that it's always almost a different, like
Yeah.
sometimes it's more jalapeno peppery, sometimes it's more vinegary. It's very vinegar. A lot of people say it's very salt and vinegar.
It's
Okay.
not like Tabasco where you're going to have that heat
No,
in your throat.
But it's like it got like a spice.
But a mixture of spices, like
Yeah.
your Cajun, if you'd have
Yeah.
Cajun fries or
that makes sense.
But
New Orleans.
I've never had these. We had them in the vending machine at the factory when I worked at the factory, and I tried them, and I'm like, oh my god, these are good.
Let me
Yep.
take a picture. I like the bag. It's
Yeah,
very
so
colorful.
Kory and I already both know we love these.
Zapp's potato chips. Do they? So does this company make other flavors too?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's like a crawtater.
Yeah,
I want to.
yeah,
I think
there's
it's
like-
called
Like
crawtater.
crawfish?
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Does
like
it
New
taste
Orleans.
like
It's like
fish?
Louisiana.
It's got
Surprised
like
nobody
a
sent us that.
fish aftertaste, but not like a bad. Then they have like 2 or 3 other flavors that are.
Not like most of our taste tests.
Take one. I mean, we'll do the taste test. We both know how these are,
Yeah.
and they're delicious.
Yeah, this is not a solo taste test.
It's very much a salt and vinegar chip.
Okay, ready?
It is.
Oh,
Yeah, just a mild Cajun seasoning, I think, is.
there's
really-
even like a sweet note.
There is, and it's like like Canada has all dressed chips where it's like all like vinegar, like everything is put on there, and that's
They're
kind of
really
what these-
vinegary, but
yeah.
not overpowering.
But they're really good, aren't they?
They are really good.
Yeah.
I love kettle chips in general because they're so
Yep.
crunchy.
Yeah, I would pick
Oh,
these
that's
over
really
Doritos
good.
Yeah,
or anything.
those are
Yeah.
actually one of my favorite. You can take the
They're
rest.
like a perfect combination of salty and sweet.
Yep.
Yeah, but like I said, I actually read Reddit's devoted to these chips, and people say that it's almost like the batches are all different. Sometimes you're going to have a little more spice and a little less vinegar. Sometimes you're going to have a little more vinegar.
Smoke, I do pick up on the smoke. Interesting.
But
These
yeah,
are really good.
that is one of my go-to chips.
I've never even seen them before.
Out of 10,
I'm giving these a 10. As far
Kory?
as potato chips go, these are good.
Yeah, I give them a 10 too. mean,
I give them a 10 too
like I
because
said, I
they're-
would easily buy these over Doritos or
it's
Lay's.
really
or,
Right.
easy for me to get bored with chips.
Yeah.
But these ones I always really like.
Those are delicious.
Yep. And now
All right.
the one that I said is kind of payback.
Great.
Not payback to us.
AKA gross.
crickets.
Payback to Kory.
Are there bugs involved?
Crispy taco, whole roasted crickets.
Oh my goodness.
That sounds
He
awesome.
seems
Actually.
excited, damn it. Yeah, Corey's the one who had us try. Was it the
The crickets.
The
Kory got us
crickets,
the crickets
okay.
and the larva.
I want to say payback because this doesn't bother me one bit.
Seriously?
If it would have been something spicy, it wouldn't have bothered me one bit. This kind of stuff, no.
What would bother you? We'll keep it in mind for next time. As payback.
I don't think I really have anything I
Oh
wouldn't
man.
try.
Well, I mean, we obviously try everything. Anything with the fish aftertaste, though. Ugh.
Yeah. It's Exo brand whole roasted crickets, crispy taco. Crispy and savory. So,
You know, these haven't been bad. The bug ones haven't been bad.
no.
I will
like I said,
admit.
it is appropriate that
It's more of a mental thing to get over the fact that you're eating a bug.
Some
Here's
of
your
the things
little
on the
multi-tool.
old Fear Factor would maybe
Oh,
be some of those things.
yeah.
that
there
are-
was one where
When
they
they're
put
still
rats,
moving?
The one with rats in a blender. They had to put rats in a blender and drink it.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it.
I believe
I'd be-
there was one with bulls. Semen.
Yes.
Yes.
There was one
The-
with balls, too.
Oh, like the Rocky Mountain oysters.
Yeah,
whatever
and they weren't, like, cooked or anything.
they-
Ugh.
yeah. Some of them.
Uh-oh. Kurt smelled it and made a face.
Don't smell it first. Just
Are they
eat it.
shaped like little tacos? Oh, they actually are, kind of. That's weird.
I was excited about this till I
Oh.
smelled them and saw them.
That is a bag of bugs. Wow, that's a bag of bugs.
That's your mistake. That's your mistake of smelling it first. I'll take two.
Wow.
Ooh,
Kory is.
I can take a picture. That is a bug.
Did you take a picture of the package?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
I was excited and I am no longer
At least
excited.
they're really
6
small.
grams of protein.
It's healthy.
They just smell nutty to me.
Like
actually.
a corn nut.
All right, I'll smell it. Yeah.
Let's do it. 1, 2, 3.
Oh. Well,
Mild taco. Mild.
there's
taco.
like an underlying flavor though that's
No. No. Yeah. Oh, it's that aftertaste. That's
I'm having another potato chip.
Ugh. No.
Who wants a potato chip chaser?
No.
You want a chaser?
Yes.
Their crickets are born and raised in Austin, Texas. They're
Oh.
farmed with the highest degree of quality, care, and transparency. Because they are an extremely sustainable snack packed with protein and truly delicious.
I don't know if I'd say truly delicious.
Yeah, I don't know about the truly
They're not
delicious
bad.
part.
I mean, I've had worse
I've had much
things.
worse.
On this show, I've had much worse, but
Yeah.
it's
I have a couple
Kory's going
I
in
mean, he
again.
can take them home.
Kory's a trooper.
He is a trooper. He's had like 4. I had 1.
Yeah.
And I had to chase it with a potato chip.
I am good. Ay, ay, ay.
more. What, 7 out of 10?
Oh, out of 10?
Oh, I mean, as far as bugs go, I guess I'd give it like a 7.
Yeah, as far as dead, dried bugs go, I'd give it a 7.
I'm trying to fit you both in a picture.
I'm surprised you gave it a 7, the faces you were making.
People
It's
want.
just that aftertaste is gross.
Yeah, the aftertaste. There's that weird undertaste behind the spice that
Like
you're like,
dirt.
yeah, this is a bug.
Or like worms. Like you guys laughing at me when we got out of the car this morning.
Kurt's
I
like,
said,
it smells like
it
worms.
smells like worms. Like after it rains, it smells like worms.
Oh, it smells
There's like a worm
It
smell.
smells like ozone.
Ozone.
No,
Exactly.
it smells like worms.
Kory and I are right. You're wrong.
Whatever.
It's
What?
weird that we both said ozone because that
Yeah, it
goes
is
with
weird.
my story.
Ooh, does it?
Ozone comes. Who's
I
gonna
feel
go
like
first?
that's a fantastic segue.
We'll have Krista go first.
Oh, I was just going to say. Kory just segued into his story.
So Kory doesn't know what Krista's story is. Krista doesn't know what Kory's story is. I
Nope.
know what they both are.
Kurt's all-knowing.
I'm all-knowing and all-seeing.
Whoa,
I'm
careful.
like Illuminati.
So
So,
am I going
we're going to
first?
jump into this. This is a mini mystery.
Oh, and it's mini.
mystery. And I am just going to sit and hang out.
Say witty things every
Yep.
once in a while and look really cute.
Yep. I'm just going to hang out.
Okay, well, diving right in here. Mine is about the Tallman house, or as I like to call it, the Tallman house, because that's way creepier.
It is way creepier, but do you know where most people know this story from?
Unsolved Mysteries.
Yes, from
Yep.
Unsolved Mysteries. That's where I remember first seeing it.
The original Unsolved Mystery?
Yeah,
Yes.
19.
Okay.
It aired. This episode aired on October 26, 1988.
Yep.
You were in
So
high school.
I
You were a
was
senior.
a senior in high school. And I remember because
Dang.
people talked about this story because it happened in Wisconsin.
I don't remember it, but
because
I was
it happened
much
relatively
younger.
near us.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So the house is located in Horicon, Wisconsin, which is sort of like east central Wisconsin. It's about 45 minutes south of where we are right now.
And we did an
Southwest.
investigation in Horicon before you were in the group, I believe.
Yes,
We
before me.
investigated a bed and breakfast in Horicon, and then we wanted to actually go past this house, but I don't think we did.
Well, and I found some websites that were trying to actually pinpoint where it is, and
Yeah.
I think they actually do know
Yes,
where it
yes.
is. But it's directly west of West Bend, so
Yes.
you should tell Aaron to take a ride out there.
Yeah, we should. I'll stop interrupting you now. Proceed with your
We'll
story.
see. In February of 1987, the Tallmans, Debbie and Alan, bought a bunk bed, a seemingly completely innocent and, normal, mundane thing, from a secondhand shop, assembled it and stored it in their basement until May of the same year, at which point they moved the bed upstairs. Apparently, from the moment the bed was used, the family was subjected to what was described as 9 months of horror. So the children, who almost never got sick, all became seriously ill for no apparent reason. Their son, who was sleeping, I think there are 3 kids, and they don't use any of their names. The family's been very careful about not
Yeah, the family never
releasing
wanted this
names.
really released.
Right. They did not, even when they were on Unsolved Mysteries,
Yeah.
they were, they didn't show their faces.
No, they were like in shadow and stuff.
Yeah, they changed their voices. They
Yep.
changed their names.
So it wasn't for publicity.
No, not at all. So their son, who was sleeping in the room next to the bunk beds, his clock radio started turning on and off, and also changing stations. And I think it was the kind with the dial. It was actually moving between stations on its own. I think he told his parents. They didn't believe him at first, because this is like the first thing that happened. Alan, the dad, was painting in the basement, and when he went upstairs for lunch and came back down to the basement, sometime in between there, the paintbrush moved from the table where he had left it to the bucket with the bristles sticking up. So I'm assuming not handle.
Yeah, like somebody put the handle in the paint.
Right. So little things like that, right? The youngest daughter, so I think there were 2 young girls and a son. That's what I got from what I read. They were really young. The youngest daughters were maybe 2-3 years old.
Oh.
She was sleeping in the bunk bed, this one daughter, and she claimed that she saw a red-eyed witch behind her door and also saw fire in her room, which ends up being kind of a common thing that happened in this house. A month later, the same son, having the issues with the radio clock, saw the same figure. I don't know where he saw it, if it was in the same room or not. The Tallmans ended up bringing their family pastor in, who claimed that he felt an evil presence inside the house. He apparently felt they were dealing with the devil or something demonic. And I did find a Reddit post. Somebody had looked up this pastor and found their name. And they belonged to a church where this pastor was sort of like very fire and brimstone. So it's not very surprising that they would walk in and immediately be like, it's Satan, you know?
Yeah.
A week before Christmas, their son saw something that was horrifying, some horrifying figure. They didn't describe it at all, but he told his mom that he wanted to leave. And Alan kind of got fed up and was like, look, you need to leave my family alone. Get out of this house, or if you want to fight someone, fight me. And then it all focused on him after that.
Antagonizing the spirit.
Exactly.
Not a good idea.
That's a Zach Baggins move.
A lot of times you're not even supposed to acknowledge that it's there, but I think
Yeah.
when it's happening every day, not acknowledging it, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
You hear advice like you're supposed to address it and say, this is my space, you can't be here, whatever, but then you're acknowledging it. So there's
Yeah.
sort of like conflicting advice out there in the kind of paranormal community about what you're supposed to do in these situations. So a lot of this is coming from it's the Unsolved Mysteries fandom page.
Yep. I go there quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, there's good stuff on there. So this is something on their page that described another incident that Alan had not long after this one at Christmas. So, quote, 3 weeks later, at around 2 a.m. on January 7th, 1988, Alan returned home from the late shift. I think he worked third shift. Or second shift, one of the two. Outside the garage, he heard an eerie howling sound and went to investigate. A voice came out of the howling and said, "Come here." He went around the back to see if anyone was there, but there was no one. He then went back to the garage and saw that it was on fire. He went inside to get a fire extinguisher, but when he came back out, the fire was gone.
That's one thing I remember from the Unsolved Mysteries story is him seeing the garage on fire. And then he comes
And
out
then
and
there's
it's
nothing.
just gone.
Like
It's
the
like
daughter
it never existed.
Claimed that there was fire in her bedroom, but
Yeah.
obviously there was no damage from it. The garage door was undamaged with no visible signs of recent fire consummation. When Alan got back inside, he went to reach his lunch pail that he had set down, but the entity then threw it across the room. This experience is interesting because both kids, I think the son also claimed to see fire inside the house too. So Alan began sleeping in his daughter's room to keep her safe. And one night a fog appeared in the room, and Alan heard a voice coming from the fog that said, "You're dead."
I'm awake.
Yeah.
I'd be like, nope.
That's something you don't really want to hear.
I'm going to move out now. So a relative who was a total skeptic was asked to stay with the family because Alan was working late and he didn't want to leave his wife and kids home alone anymore. And this person saw the same figure and apparently was just completely terrified by it. And Debbie finally was like, that's it. We're moving out. We need to leave this house forever. So the Unsolved Mysteries fandom page indicated that they had the bunk beds destroyed and there was no further activity in the house. But I found an article on the Cult of Weird page that said, and this was a quote right from Debbie that said, the bunk beds were buried in a landfill where nobody will ever build. They took them out there and plowed them under. So it was a local landfill in Horicon. Yeah. So they weren't actually destroyed.
No, but they were destroyed and buried. From what I remember,
maybe they were broken down.
Yes, from what I remember reading,
I'm picturing like the entire bunk bed.
No, from what I remember, they busted them, and they broke them apart and then buried
them. I would have burned them.
They wanted to make sure they weren't put where somebody is going to build a house because they were so concerned about the bunk beds being haunted that it would haunt whatever was built on there.
Yeah. So it's in a landfill somewhere in Horicon.
The picture that I have in the teaser for this episode is the bunk beds. That's what that is the bunk beds.
The actual bunk beds. They look like handmade. They weren't like mass produced or anything like that. So apparently the Tallmans moved out of the house on the night of January 11, 1988, and they moved to nearby Beaver Dam. And while the activity stopped, I guess it took the family a while to get over the horror of what happened. Debbie said she initially was still afraid to be home alone at night. And a new family moved into the house that April and have never had a paranormal experience inside the house. The house itself has no prior history of being haunted. So it has to be the bunk beds from whatever, what everyone thinks. So there's some extra notes on the page. So this is from, again, the fandom page. Quote, "The Tallmans were beset by unwanted attention as a result of earlier ghost hysteria, which they did not seek. They had turned down a lucrative tabloid offer about their experience as they did not think it right to make any money off of their children's misfortune. The Tallmans agreed to share their story with Unsolved Mysteries under 3 conditions. They were censored during the interview. Their children's names were to be protected by aliases, and that all reenactments of their experiences be done by actors playing them." Mm-hmm. The Tallmans' house activity was described in greater extent in the book, quote, "Haunted America" by Michael Norman and Beth Scott, but at no time in their research do they link the hauntings to a bunk bed. That's weird.
It is weird.
The activity is instead linked to the property as being located on or near former Native American burial grounds. That's such a cliche.
Oh, just wait.
Really?
Kory's got stuff too with his.
There's Native American burial mounds right by my house. Jim and I.
Yeah, you sent me that.
I mean, it's like a half a block away.
Yep.
Are there trees over there? I can make you a bunk bed if you need.
We'll make you guys a bunk bed.
Surrounded by trees. It's a whole
we'll make
forest.
you guys a bunk bed. Let us know how it works.
Okay.
Kurt will do it.
Yeah, I'll make you a bunk bed. I got my multi-tool.
With your multi-tool?
My multi-tool.
And then this, just to end on, this is an excerpt from the April 1988 edition of The Quill, which I believe is a newspaper. An article by Barrett J. Bunsman said, quote, "Ghost rumors had swept through the crowd at the Friday night basketball game at the local high school. Hundreds of cars swept down Larrabee Street," that's the street that the house is on in Horicon, to drive past the Tallman home. People walked through the yards of the other 9 houses on the block, climbing over fences and peering into windows. Drunks showed up. They weren't afraid of no ghosts.
Well, it is Wisconsin. It's probably
that's true.
Yep.
They could have all
probably
been
drunks
drunk.
there quite a bit.
Yeah. They tried the doors and windows of the Tallman home, intent on getting inside to prove their bravery. When the police ordered the drunks and gawkers to stay away from the house, a few would-be Ghostbusters told the cops to, quote, "Go to hell." Arrests for disorderly conduct were made, and the street was barricaded. I think it just lends a lot of credibility to their story that they didn't want any attention from it. They didn't want any publicity. They wanted to remain anonymous.
To me,
they
this
didn't want
has
to make any money off of it.
always been one of the most credible ghost stories that I remember hearing because, like you said, they didn't want anybody knowing who they were. What would they have to gain by putting this out there? But I vividly remember the Unsolved Mysteries because, the paintbrush being upside down in the paint can. I remember that. I remember the garage on fire. I remember the voices. And to me, this was always one of the coolest haunting stories.
I was 11 at that time, so I don't remember. I remember the later episodes, so I have no memory of this at all.
Oh, I totally
But a lot
do.
of people on Reddit said that when this was brought back to, was it on Netflix again like a few years ago or something? People said that it was revived. Maybe the series was revived, but for some reason this episode was left out. And people
I think
were
for
really
the longest
upset.
time you couldn't get any old Unsolved Mysteries episodes. And
But then they came
redid-
out with Dennis Farina was like hosting it
so
instead of
maybe
Robert
he,
Stack.
like
So
a reimagining of it or a rebroadcast.
But they
of
were
it.
playing old cases from the original series, and people were really upset that this one got left out because everybody remembers this one apparently.
yeah, this is like everybody that loves Unsolved Mysteries remembers this story.
And it's cool because it's a Wisconsin.
It's Wisconsin,
story.
and we were in Horicon.
Yeah.
So, very good. Yay.
Thanks.
When you said yours was really short, I contemplated also doing a really short mini mystery, but I decided against it.
I
'cause
mean,
there's
we're
not a
almost
lot.
45 minutes in, so I think
Yeah.
we're okay.
My mini mystery I was going to cover was...
We'll save it for a future episode.
No, because it's
Oh,
really
okay.
small, and there's not really a lot about it. But it was the theory that the whole fiasco when they released New Coke...
Oh.
in the 1980s when
Yeah.
they released New Coke, and that became a huge uproar.
Because they changed the...
Was that they actually
formulation
did
or
it
whatever.
because they were transitioning from sugared Coke to high fructose corn syrup Coke.
Oh.
And they wanted people not to be able to tell right away the difference. So they stopped making the sugared Coke, and then they released New Coke knowing that people were going to be in an uproar and that people were going to be happy to have the original Coke back, even though it was the Coke with the high fructose corn syrup.
Oh, big conspiracy.
But there's like a Snopes article about it, but everybody says no because they were actually started using high fructose corn syrup before that. But I was going to consider doing that. But I like stories like that, like the not traditional,
Right.
like
Obscure kind of
stories. But then I decided, nah. Kory
Decided, nah.
I said, nah. So Kory J, what is your topic? And this is the one that always makes people giggle when you say
My topic is about Mel's Hole.
it is Mel's Hole.
Great.
We've actually had people ask us to do Mel's Hole.
There was another story about someone's hole, and I laughed, and it ended up being a really tragic story of like a dude who got
Oh
hung
yeah, it
in
was
a
that one, the
tree.
guy that hung, and yeah,
I felt really bad for laughing.
Yeah, so this
Hopefully
is
nobody died.
This is Mel's Hole.
This is
Mel's
Mel's
Have you ever heard of
Hole.
Mel's Hole?
No, not. I don't think so.
On February 21st, 1997, a man named Mel Waters, who at that time was 65, was a guest on the Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell show.
And
So
we've brought up Coast to Coast quite a bit on this show.
First
Yeah.
sidebar, Coast to Coast was awesome.
Yeah.
For somebody who worked
With
third
Art
shift,
Bell? Yeah.
yes, for somebody that worked third shift for mid to late 90s to early 2000s, it would only come on locally at 11 o'clock at night, and it would play till I think 4 in the morning or maybe 3 in the morning. And where I work and what I was doing, for the most part, I always had access to it. And, you know, there were times where the episodes were super crazy. Like
Yeah.
the callers or the topic would be something
Like we've talked about the Area 51 caller that called in there and
all frantic. And
all frantic, yeah.
And then you had a couple that were down to earth. Like I work at a nuclear plant, and I was listening to a Coast to Coast AM show about nuclear accidents, like ones that were, you know,
That's great.
obviously Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island, but these were like the Broken Arrow scenarios where
Yes.
they lost a nuclear missile,
Yeah.
and they found them, and just luckily they were.
They didn't find all of them. I mean,
Well,
there's still
Yeah.
some dropped nuclear missiles out there that they didn't find.
Oh, that's good.
But everything from government conspiracies to aliens to, you know, everything paranormal. It was an awesome show, but the callers were just bonkers.
Yeah.
Most of the callers were just bonkers. But anyway, he would actually call back about 5 different times over the course of the years, and it pretty much rallies down to about 5.5 hours worth of conversation with Art Bell. And this was all Art Bell. This wasn't George Norrie, who was a later host after Art had retired and all that. He previously faxed, you know, so this does go back to
It
97.
goes back quite a bit.
Wow.
So he faxed Art some of the strange information about the property that he owned. And he owned it for about the last 4 years. Art then, through the fax and getting a hold of Mel, told Mel to call in. So they had a show dedicated to Mel. He talked to Art directly for about 40 minutes. Mel claimed that he owned some property near the Menashtash Ridge near Ellensburg, Washington, the state of Washington, which is apparently near some old Indian burial ground.
That seems to be the theme for today's episode.
Mel and his property had a 9 to 9.5 foot diameter hole. The hole had stones around it like a retaining wall, and then looking down into it, which you could really only see with light about 15 feet down. And then after that 15 feet, it kind of stopped turning from stone and turned more into like a dirt mixture.
It almost looked like a well in that
looked
photo.
like a larger well.
Yeah, it looked like a
really big well.
Yeah. So yeah, the soil was intermixed all the way down. Mel knew that the previous owners and neighbors, numbering about 20 people or so, knew about the hole being on his property. They would come over and throw garbage and stuff into it, which I guess, you have something. Anyway.
I just don't get that.
Couch. I got a couch to get rid
Well,
of.
one of the things I was thrown in there was a refrigerator.
Oh, boy.
Jeez.
How deep is this hole? I mean,
That's where the
okay.
mystery comes in.
Because you would think that stuff
Kory
would
will
pile
get to
up.
that. Kory
Okay.
will get to that,
Oh,
Krista.
he just curted me.
He did. I was waiting. Whoever had the first hour.
I was waiting for you to Kory her.
Yeah. Mel thought one day that the hole should either have filled up at some point with all the things that apparently were being thrown in there, but it never really looked any different. He wondered if he could see how deep it was, and this is all in conversation with Art. He claimed that he was a professional shark fisherman in the past, and that he happened to have a lot of old fishing line. So one of his earliest attempts was to see if there was a possibility of hitting the water table. So he hooked up a roll of Lifesavers, the old Lifesavers candies, to
Where they're all like connected to
Yes.
each other? Okay.
through the fishing line string or whatever.
Okay.
And then he dropped it in and let it sit at different depths over the course of time, thinking it would dissolve once it hit the water table. He dropped it to his last point was 4,500 feet. And he brought it up, I think it was an hour and a half later. It did not dissolve at all. So he's 4,500 feet into the earth.
I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that.
Just short of a mile.
That's
miles,
insane.
5,280 feet?
You would think that you would hit the water table.
Exactly.
And
then over time, he was, obviously surprised that he didn't find any kind of end to it. He ended up using 80,000 feet of 20-pound test fishing line with a 1-pound lead weight on it, to have weight so he could drop it down.
It wouldn't get caught up then anywhere along the
Exactly.
sides. Okay.
So he made it to what it still did not hit the bottom at the max of the 80,000 foot mark, which is 15 miles of fishing line.
80,000 feet.
I'm really curious to hear what your
Theories are?
what your verdict is on this,
Okay.
because this is something that I used to be fascinated with, and I haven't really followed up on it, so I forgot a lot of this. But when Kory's talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I remember that. Okay,
I
sorry,
feel like
go
we
on.
need Josh Gates. If there's a hole, he'll climb into it, know?
That's also an issue, is that nobody really ever knows
Yeah,
where
somebody's got to go in. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there's pictures.
Is there?
Oh, we're gonna get to that, I guess. that look.
Kory just curded Kurt.
Kory just curded me
With a look.
with a look. Oh.
Yeah, so
Only a brother can do that.
that 80,000 feet is about 15 miles of fishing line. He swears that he did not hit the bottom and that all of this is completely true. No echoes or sounds from the hole or even sounds of things being thrown in or hitting the bottom ever occurred. Mel threw old picture tubes down there to try to, because they're pretty fragile, and if they would hit something, they would break with a kind of small explosion. And they never did. Animals seemed to be scared of the hole. Mel's wife worked at the Central Washington University. She tried getting some professors or teachers with some scientific background to come and look at the hole, and they never did. Mel says that this is his first time going public with a story, and you can tell in his timbre and stuff, he's really kind of nervous. Art suggests that someone goes down on a rope, but Mel thought that the air quality could possibly be an issue, not to mention the possibility of the rope breaking.
Have you listened to the audio of him getting interviewed?
I've listened to all 5.5 hours.
That's what I told Kory. I said, Kory's kind of like the resident expert on Mel's Hole now.
And then as I'm writing down notes, so it probably ended up totaling about 7 hours.
I was going to ask you what your opinion is of his, but I'll let you get to the end.
Whether or not he's authentic.
I understand why you ask me questions a lot now. I do.
Are you curting me?
I'm not.
There's a lot of curting happening today.
So yeah, they were worried about the rope breaking with somebody on it. They mentioned dropping a light and an old school video recorder down on a rope as well. They discussed the possibility of it being an old mine or of how it came to be with like lava tubes and all that kind of stuff. And then one of the callers to the show stated that he looked up to Marianas Trench, which is, I believe, what the deepest thing they've ever found is proven. And that is 36,000 miles.
Miles?
Miles. Sorry, 36,000 feet.
I was going to say, holy cow.
Are we in China at this point?
Sorry, 36,000 feet. So Mel's at 80 is more than double the deepest part of the known
that makes
scientific.
Suspect.
That is suspect.
And that using current equipment and technology at that point, the maximum mine depth ever documented was 1,600 feet. One of his neighbors told him a story about a dog dying, and instead of burying the body, they threw the dog in the well. And it was later seen alive.
Krista's gonna cry. Wow!
Later seen alive.
So the dog is okay.
By the hunter.
Like in a pet cemetery kind of situation.
It was later seen alive by the hunter while he was out doing some hunting.
That's creepy.
The dog collar was still attached, but he knows he dropped the dog and it was dead down the well, or down the hole. Sorry.
That's
That would
creepy.
almost suggest that there's like other ways into this hole, maybe. If you're not going for a
because if the dog
paranormal
would live through that,
explanation.
if they've dropped refrigerators and whatnot down there, you would hear. If you could drop it enough that the dog would survive the fall,
But maybe
you would
on the
hear
way
the
down
picture
there are
too.
other offshoots.
The dog
I
wouldn't be
don't
able
know.
to.
You can easily tell they're intimating
cemetery.
that the dog was reincarnated.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'm trying to avoid that because it sounds crazy. I'm going for the logical explanation.
Mel mentioned that his own dogs and even local wildlife were scared of the hole. No birds would ever land on the retaining wall. No animals were ever within several feet of it. And he also told his loved ones that if he were to ever die, he would like his body thrown in the hole to see what happens as well.
Okay.
That was his first call. The later call was 3 days later. Second call, sorry, was 3 days later. And that was because of such of the uproar of the first call. Art called him back, got some more information, and surprisingly, there was a few changes on the second call.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So he changes his story?
He doesn't change, he just adds.
Okay.
You would think in a short amount of time there wouldn't be much to add. And it's
3 days.
It's incremental, the amount of additions that go on.
Okay.
He faxes again, tells Art there's been some updates. So Art gets a hold of him. Mel states that he went back to his property one day after being out shopping, and some armed military personnel had set up roadblocks with Jersey barriers, which are these big concrete barriers, around his property, and he could no longer access the road to get to his property. The military people said that there was a plane crash that had occurred on or near his property. Mel stated he didn't really see any smoke or any debris, which, if it's on his property, it's pretty rural, so there might not be a chance of seeing the debris, but the smoke you definitely would have been able to see.
So they're basically, he's saying that the military heard the episode, and
that's also what
they want to investigate Ned's hole.
Mel's hole.
Mel's hole. I called him Ned.
So he calls the supervisor over, and the supervisor tells Mel that he won't be able to access the land anymore until he was told, until it was completely investigated. Mel stated that it was his property and that the supervisor said that it might not be his property and that it would be easy for them to find a, quote, drug lab on his property.
Okay.
Mel left and asked if he needed to give his contact information to someone. They said they already had his information.
That's like,
And this is day before the internet.
Like X-Files.
Really.
It's like X-Files
so,
kind of stuff.
Yeah. Did
Mel
they hold
asked-
anything up and he made him look into it? No.
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
Mel asked if he could talk to other people in the town about this. The supervisor stated, quote, "Sure, not like anyone would believe you." A neighbor of Mel's told him that he thought he saw a solid beam of black light coming out of the hole. So it's a contradiction,
Right,
a light of
black light.
but it was blacker than black. So basically the most intense shadow emanating out of the hole.
Okay.
So when Art called Mel, Art stated that Mel was extremely nervous and scared and needed to be persuaded to talk again live on the show, and that by going public was probably his best course of action. This discussion takes about 75 minutes with his second call. They discussed the popularity of Coast to Coast AM and that someone really important must have been listening. Mel admits that he actually has a lab on the property, but he really dances around what it's used for.
Okay.
Art kind of suggests that it might be an actual drug lab, basically marijuana.
Oh.
Mel dodges everything by kind of saying that it's plant life from Native American plants that Indians used to use as medicinal herbs for alternative health.
Probably
So
that's
it's
sativa
peyote?
or sativa
So-
or whatever that stuff
Yeah.
is. Sativa.
So take that for what it's worth. He really danced around what it was. He
So
didn't-
then the government, the agents weren't really being
being
jerks because
I
he
think they
did
got
really
lucky with what they mentioned that, we
They happened
could
to
easily
pick the one thing
take
he
this
does
from
have.
you because we found a
Yeah.
quote unquote drug lab.
Yeah.
Mel states that there was interest in someone buying the property with a very generous offer from a local real estate agent at this time as well. Art and Mel then rehashed some of the information from the first call. Mel says that there were no reports of a plane crash in the area in local papers or any discussions with neighbors or local people. Art states that military aircraft crashing may not be in the local papers. They're not going to really kind of divulge that kind of information, especially if it's like an experimental craft. So the fact that it wasn't in the news might really not be that big of a deal. Art and another caller suggest that they get reporters together and go out with the press to the property to kind of give the military personnel reasons to answer their questions. Another caller states that he knew of a professor in the area that over coffee one day told him he knew of a hole nearby that had no bottom.
Wow.
So this would be an independent person who called in,
Really?
saying they had a discussion with a professor in the area that knew of a hole that probably did not have a bottom.
Wow, that's interesting. I don't know if I knew that.
Mel states that he knows the hole has been there for at least 40 years, but assumes that it's been there for a very long time. Mel mentions that if the offer for his property is right, he'd like to possibly move out of the country. He is unsure about letting other people help, even Art, because of the worry of his safety.
Yeah.
So Art is suggesting we get these people to go and try to get access. Art is pressing him for pictures, and, he's like, I never thought this would happen, so he didn't take any pictures. So he kind of does have all the right answers up until this point.
Yeah.
So the third call is April 4th, 2000. So we're 3 years later is the next time anybody gets a hold of Mel. Art and Mel rehash the story up to what we knew at this point. Mel doesn't really make any mistakes or changes to the story for the first 30 to 35 minutes. He's spot on with, 3 years later. He didn't make any mistakes in rehashing. Art, I think,
Tried to catch him. Yeah.
Exactly. He said the U.S. government had now gotten involved, and he leased the land to the U.S. government in perpetuity, and they paid him $250,000 a month.
Wow.
Which is
That's a lucrative deal.
$3 million
How do we
a year.
get in on that?
Exactly.
Wow. We got to find a hole.
Get a drug lab.
We'll get a drug lab here in the school.
And they paid for his relocation to somewhere around Perth, Australia. The government made Mel leave almost as soon as possible as the deal was done. Mel was able to get his dogs.
So he wasn't even on the property at this time on this
Nope.
third call.
He was able to get his dogs. The government had set up bank accounts in Australia for him to, according to him, that he had money already in his account when he got there.
A slush fund.
Exactly. Mel, when he was in Australia, did work with more of these medicinal herbs, and he did some wombat rescuing, which, wombats are native to Australia or whatever.
Yeah.
Art asks why he's back in the U.S. now after 3 years. Mel found out that he had been having issues, and it ended up being esophageal cancer.
Ew.
And that Mel also had some legal action against him by his wife. They had filed for divorce, and there were some issues with the property. What that ends up being, I don't know. They talk about modifications to the property, but at this point, he had already leased it to the government, so technically it wasn't their property, but there were some issues with the divorce with him and his wife.
Did anyone ever hear from her about any of this? Okay.
Nope. He also lost out on a lot of his money. He was broke. A lot of the money loss was due to the wombat rescue. And
Vegemite? Was he
Vegemite.
buying all the Vegemite?
And
I
Mel
love
said
Vegemite. I love Vegemite.
there was also some money spent to wine, women, and song.
Oh.
Is that what he said?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Which
I get the first two, but what about the third one? Is he buying
He
lots of
just likes
CDs?
carousing. He just likes going out and
Musician.
carousing.
Okay.
He was actually back in the U.S. a few months earlier than this call, and he had contacted Art to let him know. They scheduled a previous live talk, but Mel no-showed, even though Art had promoted the, you know.
That's shady.
And, yeah,
That is shady.
his appearance was promoted all week. Mel states that he was on a bus to Yakima, Washington, and that there was
Didn't they show up in one of our other
Yakima?
stories? Wasn't it Yakima? Where did the guy that disappeared in Texas and then his body turned up in Washington? Wasn't that Yakima?
Was that Yakima?
I don't remember.
Really?
Maybe there's something with Yakima, Washington. I don't know. He said he was on a bus to Yakima, and there was an altercation on the bus. He wasn't a part of the altercation. He was a witness to the altercation. The next thing he knows, some transit authority cops came onto the bus to ask questions about the altercation. The second thing he remembers is that now he wakes up in San Francisco.
Okay.
It is 12 days later, and he wakes up in an alley surrounded by bums. Still in the same clothes he was wearing when he was on the bus. All of his back teeth were removed.
Does he have a kidney left?
Wow.
He also states that he can tell on his arms that he's been hooked up to an IV.
Seriously, does he have a kidney?
That's
No,
weird.
The only thing he's missing is his back teeth.
Strange.
He arranges with his nephew on a phone call to get transportation back to Tacoma. And it's alluded to in this call that his scheduled appearance and promotion for Coast to Coast AM may have resulted in his kidnapping to silence or scare him. So Mel at this point is trying to get a hold of some people from his past that he maybe had run-ins with or around discussing the whole. One of the people that Mel is trying to get a hold of is a guy he sold a gun to. It was a Walther P38.
Yeah. That was James Bond's gun.
It was also a Nazi gun, I believe,
Yeah,
that
I
they
think
used
so.
quite a bit in World War II. Mel also alluded to the Heaven's Gate cult having some association with his property or near his property. And I didn't look to see when the Heaven's Gate cult killed themselves. So I think it might have been...
So we're still in the early 2000s right now, right?
This is, yes, 2000.
The year 2000.
Yes.
Okay.
So this might just be he grabbed onto the current news cycle, or there actually is some association to the Heaven's Gate cult.
Heaven's Gate was the one where they all bought Nikes or something
Yes.
and drank Kool-Aid. Was it? No, that's
No, the Kool-Aid was Jonestown.
Yeah, Jonestown.
They
They did
mass
poison
suicide-
themselves,
something,
though,
yes.
right? Yeah, okay. They all lived in a house. I listened to a podcast about that called Heaven's Gate. It's the same guy who actually hosts Spooked, because he grew up in a cult.
Kurt is looking it up.
I am doing some research.
He's using the
here.
Google machine.
This was April of 2000.
1997.
Well, it's around the same
Yeah.
time frame, though. That's when he first went on the show, right? It was
Yeah.
97?
Because that was when the Hale-Bopp comet was supposed to go back
Oh,
over. It was
right. They were all about the
1997.
Hale-Bopp. Okay.
So it had to be right
Yeah,
around
so
97.
that was right around the Mel's whole introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now here we are 3 years later. So, maybe he's right. But you can see from the first call, it was, I have this hole. It's kind of strange. The second call is, I can't get access to my property anymore.
You don't want to say my hole.
I can't get access to my hole anymore. So he can't get access to his property, and the U.S. government pretty much buys him out, and he takes off.
Yeah.
So it's incrementally gotten a little stranger.
Escalating,
Yes.
yeah.
So now his fourth call is in early 2002. It doesn't give me a date, but I'm guessing January or February. So again, it's 2 years later. Art and Mel rehash again. Mel sounds different. A lot of people on Reddit and websites and blogs said that it's a different person acting. But it really is him.
Okay.
It's just the leaps in technology from the first couple calls.
Plus,
Sure.
if he does have cancer in his esophagus,
that would
maybe
make
his voice
sense.
is changing
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
But he's basically spot on with rehashing things for the first 25 minutes or so. And it starts to go a little sideways. The transit police we talked about in the earlier call took Mel's belt buckle. Apparently Mel had made some belt buckles, but he was really concerned that his belt buckle was missing. So this is a new thing thrown in. He did mention it at the end of the third call, but Art had interrupted him, but Mel just never went back to his missing belt buckle.
This was during the kidnapping. They took his belt buckle.
Yes. So Mel runs into a guy who bought one of his belt buckles years ago. The belt buckle was made of coins that feature Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin, and he did it to kind of commemorate the Yalta Conference, World War II. The one with Roosevelt was weird because it was a 1943 Roosevelt dime. And anybody knows that Roosevelt didn't die until 1945, so they wouldn't have made a commemorative dime
Weird.
2 years earlier.
Yeah.
He spends some time on it, but he doesn't really push the issue. There's also a strike on it that says, like, N for it was minted in New York, M for it's minted in, say, Minneapolis.
Yeah.
This one apparently had a B, and there is no minting section for a town that begins with B. People say like
weird.
Boston or whatever, but there is none. He went to a coin dealer who was in awe with this dime, and he wanted to buy it for a large amount of money. He said he'd think about it, and then the next day the guy was visited by U.S. Treasury agents. And Mel now remembers at this point in the call that he dug up these coins near the hole on his property. He mentions that the government is still in charge of the property, and he hasn't been there since he left. So he throws in a new wrinkle with this dime, and it does come back later.
Okay, I was gonna say stuff about it, but I'll
It just
I'll
seems
wait.
so like look over there. You know what I mean? Like he's misdirecting things
But this
now.
I'll wait.
There's also a website called the Terra Server. It was made by Microsoft. It was basically a precursor to Google Earth.
I remember Terra Server. I remember using that.
And that they looked at it, and it would show Mel's land by satellite, and his property was effectively blacked out with 2 white squares. And this was in June of 2000 when the site came live. So if you do a satellite search on that Terra Server,
Was that legitimate? I mean, are there shots of that?
There is talk that he knew where the Terra Server was blocked out, and that's where he made his property.
Yeah.
But the Terra Server was actually before the story came out. So it was actually after. I'm sorry.
But it almost gives some legitimacy to it. If the government thinks there's something there that they need to block, that they would block that out on it, because like military installations and stuff are blocked out or like whited out where you can't see things they don't want you to see. So that almost gives some credibility to his story.
Just to reiterate, the Terra Server came live after the story.
Yeah.
So he couldn't have went and said that my property is here.
Oh, right.
So in case I misspoke on that.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah, that is strange.
Mello was talking to they're Basques, they're Spanish sheep herders descended from the 1800 gold rush settlers in Nevada. He was there discussing some medicinal herbs again.
He's big with the herbs.
He is. And they said that there was a hole in their area. So the new hole that Mel was brought to has the same diameter. This time, instead of the stone retaining wall, it was a metal retaining wall with kind of a collar around it. Whether it was a retaining wall or a collar is how they describe it. I'm assuming like the rim.
It almost sounds like Lost. It almost sounds like the hatches on Lost.
This one seemed more man-made, according to Mel, than the one that was on his old property. Some of the Basques also mentioned a black beam emanating out of this one as well.
Maybe if you throw something in that hole, it comes out on Mel's side and vice versa.
They decided to do some experiments with this one. They bought some ice from 7-Eleven, whatever, in bags. They attached one to a rope and sent it down 1,500 feet, and then they kept one on the side of the hole. Once the one on the side of the hole became a little melty, halfway melty or whatever, they raised the line for the ice in the hole. The ice that came back out of the hole didn't melt at all, and it wasn't cold to the touch. And when you put it in your hand, it was lukewarm but not melting.
What?
So basically consider like ice made of acrylic.
Yeah.
Where
where it looks like an ice cube and you hold it
baked.
and
it's weird when you put it in your hand because you expect it to be cold and wet.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it came up as.
That's so weird.
So it's like they're claiming it changed the structure
yeah.
or the chemical
It wasn't cold,
makeup.
but it wasn't hot, and it didn't melt when you put it in your hand. It didn't melt when you put it over
I
a
wouldn't
fire.
expect it to melt because it's colder underground than it is on the
Yeah.
surface.
But it didn't melt when they put it over a fire
That's
either.
weird.
Wow.
Are they now diamonds?
It when they put a flame to it, it actually started on fire. It didn't start on fire like a flame per se, but like a tiny blue aura around it. You know, if you ever start up a gas stove, there's a
Sure.
blue
Yeah.
flame.
Yeah.
It kind of had a little aura like that around it the whole time.
So weird.
One guy took a bucket of it home,
It just feels like a mistake.
and
but
he used it to heat his place because it gave off a little bit of heat. I don't know if I would have done that.
I would not have done that. God knows what it's doing to your body.
They went back and retried the experiment a couple different times. It doesn't always happen. Maybe Mel suggested 33% of the time that when they put this ice in, it comes back up this way. So they decided to lower a sheep
Oh, jeez.
no.
Poor sheep.
in a box into the hole. When it was raised, it was dead with no obvious signs of why. Of course, they cut it open, and it looked like it was cooked from the inside out.
What the heck?
Most of the organs were gone, and it looked like a gel had formed. And they also noticed a huge tumor-like thing where some of the organs were. The tumor had a pulsing effect.
Jeez.
Exactly. They decided to cut open the tumor, and they cut open, and what they saw made them pretty much poop themselves. It looked like a fetal seal, like the marine animal seal.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. Although it had human-type eyes
Ugh.
and was connected to the tumor with an umbilical cord type thing.
What the hell?
I feel like we've reached the point in the story where I'm just not believing any of this anymore.
That's what makes it interesting. It starts out like, okay.
Totally believable.
And then it slowly gets a little bit more
When
and
you get
more off the
when you get
rails.
mutant tumor seal babies.
It
With
detached
human eyes.
itself. It detached itself from the umbilical
Oh
cord.
my god. This is like a bad horror movie now.
Just wait.
Oh,
And
it gets better.
it just kind of laid there looking around. It almost fell off the edge of the table it was on until Mel went over, kind of picked it up, and set it on the ground. Mel felt it felt like a religious experience. It just happened. And he noticed that it automatically smelled like ozone. For the next 2 hours, it just seemed to look at individuals one by one. After that, it shimmied.
It sounds kind of
If
cute.
you say shimmied,
I
it,
knew
it kind
you
of
were
like
gonna say
slowly
Cute.
gets closer and
Slithered?
closer to the hole.
that. Okay.
Ugh.
Mel decides at this point that it looks like it wants to go back in, so he set this tumor-like creature, onto the rim of the hole, and it almost turns around, looks at them with like, I'm going to ad-lib here, but it turns around slowly with like a tear in its eye, pieces out, and goes back into the hole.
Wow.
And there are other people witnessing this,
Yes,
allegedly.
all these Basques,
Supposedly.
Native Americans, more or less.
Wow. That's nuts.
After they discuss what had just happened, one of the elders puts something in his hand and tells him to put it away and don't look at it yet. Mel later decides to look at it, and he opens up and sees that it's a 1943 Roosevelt dime,
Wow.
also found near that hole.
Huh.
Around this time, Mel also found out after this happened that his esophageal cancer had been cured.
Wow.
He attributes it to the tumor seal thingy.
Wow. The tumor seal.
The fifth and final call happens in late 2002. This is December. Again, they start the conversation discussing the Nevada hole and how that transpired. Mel says the hole is now under frequent helicopter surveillance. The ice that was taken by one of those Basque natives to put on into his house to heat, he put it onto the stovetop in a kettle. The stove eventually broke through the floor, passed through the floor, and into the dirt. Wow. The Basque native MacGyvered the stove to be able to be used again instead of having to raise it back up. And
So he's just using it in the
he's
dirt?
just using, he added like a real small like stack to it,
Yeah.
and was able to still use it while it was in the dirt. Apparently he left for a while, came back, and the cabin had basically imploded on itself.
Jeez.
Anything that was wood became super dry and super brittle. the guy was always having a hard time breathing. It was super dry in there. So they're insinuating that this stuff
The ice.
absorbed all kinds of water anywhere around it.
Wow.
Mel gets in contact with an old Australian guy that he knew who puts together a team with cranes and heavy equipment to come to the cabin to look to see if they could lift that stove up because they know the ice is there. They know that they kind of want to see what this stuff is. The stove keeps getting deeper and deeper. Now it's about 5 feet into the dirt.
Wow.
They're actually able to get it out with some huge cranes that were brought in, and it's put on the back of a flatbed truck.
So they like insinuating that this ice became like ridiculously heavy?
Like gravity, like something
Yes.
with gravity.
Okay.
We'll get to that too.
Okay.
Mel at this point thinks he's being followed. He mentions that there were several witnesses to that tumor seal thingy as well. They believe that it's a parallel universe creature. They talk about the old Mel's Hole, the original Mel's Hole in Washington. He's heard that it's been re-landscaped, for what that's worth. Mel then references Kurt Vonnegut's 1963 novel *The Cat's Cradle*.
Yes, with the Ice 9 or whatever it's called.
That has a similar thing to the ice from the hole that's called Ice 9.
Yep.
Mel wraps up mentioning that the tumor seal thingy might be trying to contact the bass through some boomboxes using radio frequencies.
Wow.
The tumor seal thingy through the boombox mentions that ice.
So it talks. It actually talks.
It's either talking or it's embedding themselves into their subconscious.
Like telepathically talking?
Exactly.
Okay.
That this ice is an end of the world type device.
Yeah, like ice. This is very much Kurt
Exactly.
Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle.
Especially if it's ever being used by greedy and undisciplined people. No one has heard from Mel Waters again.
Wow.
He's never been heard from
Never
again?
been heard from after that.
So this is 2002?
2002. And you can see how it incrementally gets a little bit
Yeah.
worse. And
Yep.
people had suggested, especially on Reddit, that this was always where he was going to go with it, and that Kurt Vonnegut's *The Cat's Cradle* has been his end game from the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's such a popular book that I don't think you could.
As soon as you said that, I knew what you were talking. It's *Cat's Cradle* is a really good Kurt Vonnegut novel.
So it's not like you would think that he would use a popular book
Yeah.
that somebody would. But that's it. So now we just have the two theories.
I bet you I know what those are.
It was a real life hole, or this is completely made up BS. So, some things to add for it's an actual real life hole would be that the way Mel talks and answers questions throughout all these calls, he's sincere, he's honest. If he doesn't know something, he doesn't try to force it. He doesn't push you. He doesn't always have an answer. He may suggest possibilities. He doesn't get locked into one or the other. Some of the things get a little outlandish, but not quite in the beginning to the point of being over the top.
Right. Not in the beginning.
The exact location of the hole was never specified.
So what are the pictures we have? Because if you Google Mel's Hole, like the picture in the teaser,
I'm thinking it's a similar. This is
like
what
a
it
similar
looked like.
looking hole.
Okay.
There is one person who's fairly well known that claims to have seen it. His name is Gerald Osborne. His Native American name is Red Elk. He's described himself as a intertribal medicine man. He's Native American white. And he told reporters in 2012 that he visited the hole many times since 1961 and claims that the U.S. government maintained a top-secret base there where alien activity occurs.
Is he friends with?
No.
Okay.
So-
So he's independently just saying,
Yes.
I've
He's
been
independently
there.
verifying it.
We also have that caller that knew a professor that says nearby there was a hole with no bottom. And one of the things that people say adds credibility to it is that throughout ancient civilizations and mythologies, there's a lot of so-called portals to hell,
Yeah.
cave entrances, there are things like that throughout the course of time, eons of time, there's always been these things that people have spiritual connections with.
Yeah.
So that's theories 4. Some of the theories that this is completely made up BS is that local news reporters obviously at some point tried to investigate the claims. They found no records of anybody named Mel Waters ever residing in or owning property in Catidius County, Washington, where this is, and no records ever showed anybody with the Waters surname working at Central Washington University, which maybe she didn't take his last name. It's never specified what his wife's name is.
Are we 100% sure that was his actual last name? Maybe he was calling in with a fake name.
It's possible. No exact location was ever given. Even with current technology, no one has definitively found the property or hole through Google Earth. A lot of people look. I looked at a bunch of websites where people are trying to find this. He gives enough information with how far off main roads his access road is, and some of the things that are around it are properties like outbuildings and stuff like that. And then we talked about red elk being a positive. He also could be a negative, because in 2002, he had some reporters he took with him to show them the hole. He had 30 people. He could not find it. And according to State Department of Natural Resources geologist Jack Powell, the hole cannot physically exist and is geologically impossible. A hole of this depth would collapse into itself under the tremendous pressure and heat from the surrounding strata. Powell
said
assuming
that it's not some weird transdimensional canal.
Powell said an ordinary old mine shaft on private property was probably the inspiration for the stories, and that he commented that Mel's Hole had established itself as legend, quote, based on no evidence at all. Powell knew that the deepest mine shaft in the world was 12,672 feet, and the deepest known cavern was 7,188 feet, and eventually the Russians drilled to the deepest just borehole, which was 40,000 feet in 1989. At another point in his account, he claimed to have lowered 18 spools of 20-pound fishing test line into the hole, and by his own account in the discussion, he says the spool was about 5,000 yards, totaling about 2,700 feet. 270,000 feet.
There's no...
And then if we estimate that 20-pound fishing line weighs about, and we're going to get into math here, 0.162 grams per meter, and assume that normal gravitational effects, the line should have clearly snapped upon reaching a depth of somewhere between 121,000 and 183,000 feet, or anywhere in between that from the 8 to 12 spools of line.
Jeez.
It also goes without saying that the military officers from the area wholeheartedly deny such allegations about stopping him from getting to his property. Ken Cooper, a spokesman for the Army's Yakima Training Center, dismissed the entire incident to the Tri-City Herald newspaper in 1997. He says, what I understand is this Ellensburg guy said he had some property on Manishtash Ridge and that he was going up there to visit it and was stopped by our soldiers. The Army's not hiding any aviation accident, nor an 80,000-foot deep pit. We're just training just like we always do.
Of course they would say that.
Mm-hmm.
That is it for
Wow.
Mel's Hole.
Wow.
So your theories, suggestions, anything?
When I was into this back in the day, it must have ended before this last stuff, because I remember nothing about tumor seal babies or stoves that burrow themselves into the ground.
And that's what people say, that it just, like I told you when I was researching this, I found just one post, one guy on Reddit who mentioned that Art had got a hold of Mel later, and Mel had actually suggested that it was all made up. And at first, it started out as kind of a prank, and it just turned into something that he couldn't control anymore.
Right.
But that was the only comment I've ever saw.
And you can't, there's no trace
Yeah,
of
it's
this.
just
You
one
can't
Reddit
find
user,
this.
one
Says
comment.
he remembers hearing that.
Exactly. And obviously, Art's no longer with us.
What is your opinion? What do you think?
I think that his hole is legit. I think it's hard to say, because part of me just wants to say he's full of BS, but I think the hole was legit, because I don't think you would call. I know it's happened in the past. People call with stories and they just run with it.
Yeah.
But I think he's just wanted to always give that little bit more of information. And it took this supernatural bent, and I think there was a hole, and he just made up the rest of it.
That's kind of the sense that I got, was that there's probably a hole. Maybe it's not to the extent that he's described it. And the reaction of the listeners fueled his, I like this attention. This is a thrill. I want to give them more now.
Why would he have waited 3 years before getting back in touch with them again if he was out for getting his rocks off by making up this story? You know what I'm saying? Like, you would assume he would have done it like a month later and be like, oh my God, there's been so many developments, instead of like getting in touch 3 years down the road, unless he's like a pathological liar.
On that third call, when Art tried to get a hold of Mel, he did receive Australia phone numbers and
I was gonna
Australia
ask if
mailing
there were
addresses.
records of him being in
There is
Australia.
records of him being in Australia.
Doing his wombat rescue.
Yes. There is no bank
So
records.
maybe
there
he
is,
left the country, then came back, and then was like, I might as well give
Yeah.
Art a call again.
And like I said, this is late 90s, early 2000s. Nobody has photos. Nobody has bank records. There's no record of him existing, but that name at all. But it doesn't mean it's not legit.
But then it's like obvious that with the dime thing that they're trying to make it sound like it's a parallel universe. Like it's a hole that goes to a parallel universe because we get these dimes that don't exist in our world.
It's such a weird, unnecessary addition to the story.
Yeah, that and the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's how do you bring that up? Did his subconscious remember the cat's cradle? You know, it's if you're gonna find something to put all your work into it, ice isn't the first thing that usually comes to mind.
Like he could have come up with something, but like you said, maybe he was going off Kurt Vonnegut's book.
The tumor thing is just too much.
That's where they lost
You know
Krista?
what
Is that where we...
Well, and tumor, maybe there was a sheep that they put down there and brought it up and cut it open and found a tumor. Tumors are weird. They can have like teeth and hair and stuff in them.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe they saw that and they're like, we could run with this.
Yeah,
we
the
could
tumor
say it was
pieces
like a
out and
living
jumps back
thing.
into the hole.
Right.
Yeah.
Had
You know,
human eyes coming out of a sheep. Like, it makes no sense. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, you
I
lost
think
me with the
she's
sheep.
poo-pooing it right there.
So you're giving it a thumbs down? You don't believe?
For the sheep stuff, yeah. I think maybe there was a hole and it just escalated and got out
But you
of
never
his
know.
control.
I mean, there could have been legitimate weirdness with this hole, but then
There could be.
he enjoyed
Yeah.
the publicity he got from
Right.
it, so then he started making stuff up.
That's the sense I
Even though there was legitimate strange stuff, he made
Right.
it go a little too far by making stuff up.
And I'm sure people who have haunted houses who tell stories, that happens
Embellish.
too.
Yeah,
People
they
start getting
embellish it.
interested and they start telling more taller tales.
Wow.
And
That's kind of why I go with the fact that Mel's hole was legit. It's like he had this hole on his property, and all the strangeness more or less happened with this Nevada hole. So it's like once he said he couldn't get access to his property anymore, he needed to find
Another one.
something else.
Yeah.
But to make it in Nevada, to make it with these old-time Spanish settlers, it's just, was he looking for something that, like a Native American background he needed to incorporate into it? And then, like you said, he brings in this dime to correlate the two holes together. And it's
Well, and these probably aren't people that are going to come forward and talk about it anyway.
probably not.
So,
But if assuming the Terra server stuff is genuine, that adds to the validity of it, though. If
You can
the
see that
government, if there was something they knew was there, they did not want seen,
Yeah,
that's
that-
totally what they do.
That picture I sent you is the photograph from the Terra server where it
Yeah.
shows a nearby city, and then it shows these two white boxes over this property. And
I don't know, man.
that is odd.
I don't know what to think. I think there's
I think there's some truth to it.
I think there's some truth to it, like Krista said. I think there's some legitimacy there, but I don't know where it stops or starts. Wow, that is a good story.
Yeah. That's
That
a
is-
head scratcher, but also just, I don't know.
It's a WTF.
Super out there. Yeah.
That is a good story, and good job researching
Mel's
that. Holy
Hole.
cow. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Mel's Hole, yay or nay? Let us know.
I still think Josh Gates needs to go jump in it because
I'd be damned
if there's
if
a
I'd be
hole, he's
lowered in there
climbing
now
into
if
it.
you could turn out with a weird Kurt tumor baby. So let us know what you guys think. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, that was a good one.
We will do our song selection now,
And questions.
and a question,
and pickle joke.
and a pickle joke.
All right.
Song, Kory
Say
J,
Kory,
you want to go first?
Yeah.
you guys go first.
Okay.
Mine's got a sidebar.
Oh, that's
My song that I went with, and I always have a hard time with her last name, is Chantal Kravaziak.
wow.
Chantal Kravaziak.
Okay.
I've
She's
heard of her, yeah.
she's known for her cover of "Leaving on a Jet Plane."
Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Her song that I absolutely love and have always loved since the first time I heard it, it's called "In This Life." And Chantal is legitimately one of my favorite human beings. Just I follow her on Facebook, on Instagram, and she is on my hug bucket list that I would just love to give her a hug because I just adore her. She's
You
just
have a hug bucket
I have a hug
list.
like celebrities I wish I
adorable.
could hug.
You gotta post that.
That's so Kurt.
Post that. Carrie Russell's on there because I adore
of
Carrie
course,
Russell.
from the Americans.
And definitely Chantal Kreviazuk. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Okay.
She is married to the singer from the band Our Lady Peace. They had a song called Somewhere Out There, really good song. But her song, In This Life, I'll post a video. I just absolutely adore her. And that is my song, In This Life by Chantal Kreviazuk.
Cool. I probably never heard it.
You didn't. It's a song. It's like kind of like my last song, where it's a song you would imagine being on Dawson's Creek or Felicity or one of those
I can hear
shows.
it. Yeah.
But I just love her. Okay, your song?
Mine is an Elton John song, and it's Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters.
I have never heard that song.
Yes, you have. I think
No.
you have.
I thought you were going to go with
It's in
Tiny
the-
Dancer.
No, but it's in the same movie.
Oh, it's in Almost
you've heard
Famous?
it. Yeah, you've definitely. I think it might be during the Quaaludes scene where she's been sort of left out of the whole cover of the Rolling Stone part, and what's his face goes and finds her
yes, and
Penny
she's like-
Lane, and
she's like,
she's drugged up
almost
on
overdosed.
Quaaludes.
Yeah.
I think when the people are coming from the hotel to like save her life, Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters might be playing in the background. But it's a really pretty song. It's sort of melancholy. I like the harmonies during the chorus, and I'll post
Okay,
it.
awesome.
I think you've heard it before.
Awesome.
But it's a really good one.
All right, mine is a genre that obviously you guys, it's more my cup of tea than yours, and that's hard rock. I think it's technically called metalcore, but I don't want that to dissuade listeners from looking at this video. It's clean singing for the most part. And it's, you hear thousands of songs in your lifetime, and you end up with, like, say, 50 favorites. You have some that you like because of the music video that it goes with. Sometimes you can't separate, is the song good because of the music video?
Yeah,
Or,
Yeah.
totally.
like, say, Thriller. Is it the song is that good, or is it the video was just, it's so good that
Yeah.
that you end up liking the song? You have songs that the lyrics are just at whatever moment in your life, or even the genre. Like, I'm not a big country guy. Early 90s country, to me, is the gold standard
Yes,
for early
yeah.
country.
You're talking like Garth
Black
Brooks.
Hawk, Ty Herndon, Shania Twain when she started.
Yes.
And it brings you back to a time.
Yeah.
It brings me back to an old girlfriend I had who I didn't like country at that point. I didn't give it the time of day. And she was into it, therefore I got into it. So it takes me back to that early 90s, and it takes me back to the way I felt, about
I
being
feel like
with her
that's
and
what
stuff.
music does. I
Yeah,
mean, that's what
totally.
music does best.
Yeah, and then you have songs that are musically, stylistically, they'll never get any better. For me, I mean, I go back to classic rock because it seems to be the most obvious for people. The Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb. Mm-hmm. The way it's the strings, the horns, the that kind of thing. You have songs that the way they're sung, they make you feel.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
have like Mark Cohn's Walking in Memphis.
Yes.
You have Dan Fogelberg's Leader of the Band.
Oh, that's a good
It
one.
makes you feel their hurt.
Yes.
You have Blue October's
Yes.
the Feel Again,
Yeah.
Stay, whatever.
Yeah.
You can feel his
Yeah, that
pain.
that was when he
and
was
his
going
anguish.
through the divorce and all that
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
And my song incorporates all of that. You have, and there's
Do I know your song?
No.
Okay.
There's a caveat to it. You have to watch it with the music video
Okay.
first. The music video is awesome. The way he sings, and it puts you into this time frame. The way he sings, he accentuates the words a certain way that you just feel that.
Yeah.
A warning to people that are going to listen to it with kids around. He does say GD, GODDAM,
Yeah.
and four to six times, and he does say the F word twice.
Okay.
But he doesn't say it like for a shock factor. You feel
Yeah.
by changing some words, you feel it. And the band is Falling in Reverse.
I've heard of Falling in Reverse.
Their most popular song up to this point was Popular Monster. This is a song that actually came out about a decade ago, 9 years ago. The original song title was called The Drug in Me Is You. This song is called The Drug in Me Is Reimagined. The Drug in Me and You from 9 years ago is punk pop. It's early Green Day, early Blink-182. If you watch the video, it's them singing in a school with
Yeah.
teachers that are attractive women. And
Yeah.
this is just like him in
Typical.
the woods. The colors, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It'll make you feel. You'll either get goosebumps, you will tear up, you will feel something at the end of the song. Again, it's Falling in Reverse, and The Drug in Me is Reimagined is the name of the song.
Sweet.
So you're gonna post the video,
Yes.
the new video on
when
the
we
Facebook
release the
page.
episode.
Okay.
Awesome.
I will
kind of-
probably
I'm-
make you watch it now if you want.
It's that good.
It is that good. It might be one of the 3 or 4 songs you will ever listen that will make you feel.
Yeah, what he's singing.
And it's clean singing. It's not like the
growling.
screamy,
Yeah.
yeah, but just
Like
awesome.
Guar.
And it came out
Guar.
came out in early February, I believe. It's a tribute to his fans that have stuck with him. You know, he was in prison. He was in an earlier band called Escape the Fate. If you have any,
I've heard
if you
them.
ever heard of
I've
that.
heard of them.
His name is Ronnie Radke. So after Escape to Fate, he was in prison. He started a new band called Falling in Reverse. And this is a thing to his fans. He posted it saying that this is to thank the fans for sticking with me through thick and thin.
That's awesome.
So it's a complete departure from what you would expect him to do.
Sweet. Good.
Very cool.
I'm excited. That is
Yeah.
those are our songs. You generally have good taste in music. Another one of these songs that I could pick as one of my favorite songs is by Funeral for a Friend is
Roses?
no. I'm totally blanking on it. It's one of my favorite songs.
Walk Away?
No.
Streetcar?
Streetcar.
Okay.
Because you wanted me to listen to that song for years, and I
Yes.
never listened to it. Then one day, I specifically remember we were geocaching in Fond du Lac, and you and I went back to get a cache because we figured out where it was going to be, and then that song came on your car stereo, and I'm like, who is this? And you were like, that's a song I've been telling you to listen to.
Exactly. You're
so
stubborn.
I went and got it, and I was like, wow. And I love Funeral for a Friend. I generally don't go for, well, I kind of do go for faster music, but that's still one of my favorite songs. So you generally have pretty good taste in music. I'll give you that.
Guarantee you.
When you really like something and guarantee I'll like it, I generally
That's
will
why
like it.
I'm afraid I'm overhyping it a little bit, but I'm really not. I mean, it's
But
one
that's
of
how
those,
you feel about it.
like Disturbed's cover of The Sound of Silence. You know, the original song is awesome by Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
The Disturbed cover just pushes it
Yeah, a little farther.
because of the way he's singing, and you
Yep.
could feel it's the same lyrics. It's the same lyrics for this band.
Yeah.
The same song. It's just the way
it's done
is different.
Sweet. Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to that. I'll probably listen to it when I get home.
Questions?
Questions. Oh, you
Or
guys look at me.
I'll do the pickle joke while Kurt figures out his password.
I've heard people talk about them, but I've never really listened to them.
No. This is so dumb. These are so dumb. You're never going to get this. What is green and goes 99 thump, 99 thump, 99 thump?
What?
A centipickle with a wooden leg.
That's so dumb.
This one's actually cute. Okay. What's the best way to call the pickle monster? Long distance. Look at the picture. He's like a Frankenstein
He's like a Frankenpickle.
He's a
It's like
Frankenpickle.
a tumor seal thingy.
It's a tumor seal. It's a-
With human eyes.
All right.
We have to. I think we should put the Bigfoot in the closet to keep him safe.
Okay, we did Who Would Play the Villain. That was one of our last ones we did.
Yep.
We'll do 2.
And it was Hugo.
Weaving.
Weaving. Yes.
We'll do 2.
Okay.
This one is an easy one answer or the other. Would you rather be visited at your home by a black-eyed kid or a man in black?
Man in Black.
Man in black.
Man in Black.
Yeah, hands down.
No
Next.
black-eyed kids. No black-eyed. Man in Black.
Even though they're sort of correlated with each other, I'd
yeah,
still
but
take the Man in Black.
There's a big world of difference between a
Yes.
man in black and
I'll take a Man in Black.
creepy-ass
Yeah.
black
You
eyed
can
kid.
intimidate me all
Will
day.
Smith can stop by.
Right.
Yeah. And
Easy peasy.
finally, this one. Do either of you, although Kory's in this too, do either of you ever have recurring dreams? What do you think they mean?
I've had tornado dreams my whole life.
Really?
Yeah, they're always different, but I'm always seeing a tornado. I'm terrified, of course, and I have a fear of tornadoes, of course. And in a lot of my dreams, I'm trying to save someone. Like I'm trying to get someone in my family to safety, and I can't quite do it. Or and I've looked this up. It's something about feeling out of control and chaos or something like that. But yeah, I've had tornado dreams my entire life. It's been a while. Now I'll probably have one tonight, but that's probably the the one that comes to mind.
I actually
the
have
most.
4 recurring
dang.
dreams. So we'll
I'll go next then.
We'll let Kory go next. In
No.
case they want to shut it off before I start blathering.
I'm not one to usually remember my dreams. I think since I've been an adult, I don't have recurring dreams. The only one I can think of is when I was younger. We lived in a duplex. We shared a room, and on my side of the room there was a large bookcase.
Yes.
Really large. Like
Yep.
it went from floor to ceiling, and it was pretty wide. I always had the recurring dream that it would fall on me in the middle of the night. And I
don't think
it's
you
not
ever
like
told me
it-
this.
No,
I don't think I ever knew
no.
this.
It's not like it's
Was it a fear you had? Like a waking
Not really.
fear? No.
no, because I knew it was. I'm
It's just
sure.
so
Well, I'm sure it
weird.
wasn't bolted to the wall, but it never moved.
No.
But it was just frequent. It was several times a week,
Wow.
and then it would span until we moved out of it.
That's weird.
But you know, I
I know what you're talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
we slept in that room.
and it it wasn't like you would consider like a fear dream where it's
Yeah.
once and you get over it. It was several times. We were probably preteens,
Yeah.
teenagers.
Yep.
And yeah, that's the only one I can ever think of that occurred with enough frequency that
It stands
stands
out.
out.
Weird. I didn't know that. My 4 that are always in my dreams in descending order. Number 4, roller coasters. There's roller coasters in my dreams a lot.
Okay.
That symbolizes anxiety,
Turmoil.
turmoil.
Sure.
Number 3 are elevators. Elevators are in my dreams a lot, and my elevators are specifically in my number 1 thing that I'll get to, but elevators in my dreams, I'm going up in the elevators, and once I get near the top, the elevator starts to sway back and forth. And that's like a common theme in my dreams, is that swaying elevator.
Is that like instability?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm super
Okay.
curious because I know I have one thing that kind of correlates these two at this point, so I'm waiting for the other one.
Well, you might not, because elevators aren't really known for my number 1, but number 2 is bookstores. Bookstores constantly show up in my dreams.
yeah, that one threw it off.
Yeah, bookstores constantly show up in my dreams. Bookstores or libraries.
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah, it is a good thing.
That
But
is
my
a
number
dream.
1 thing that is constantly in my dreams is a college campus. And it's a campus that I've never seen, but it is constantly in my dreams.
It's
I'm
the
always-
same one?
It's usually the same one. Sometimes it changes a little bit. I can picture it in my head. I can picture going down the stairway to where the offices are.
Interesting.
It's always in my dreams. It's almost always this college campus. And a lot of times I'm in the college campus when I'm taking the elevator that starts to sway.
Oh,
See, I
interesting.
thought you threw me for a loop, but it really doesn't. I'm looking at it as
Even the library ties in a little.
yes,
Yeah.
everything that would give an average person nervous energy, make somebody anxious. Going in
Oh,
an elevator,
yeah.
roller coasters,
Not a bookstore, really.
Bookstore because of decisions. What do I look at? What do I look for?
That's
And then look at
that's
college
honestly
campus.
very.
College campus.
Or you're
and
there because you need to study and you have exams coming up. Or
But I
you know.
never. It's never. Sometimes it's like kind of like there are times where it's like crap. I missed a class that I was supposed
I have
to go
dreams
to.
like
Yeah.
that all the
Yeah.
time. And I'm going on the last day and I didn't do any of the work and now I have to, I
But
and
have
like
that.
if I didn't
that's-
know you,
Yeah,
I probably want to put that together.
but knowing me,
But
what a
knowing
nervous,
you,
what a
it
nervous
is-
mess I am.
for as wrapped up in your own head as you get sometimes,
Yeah, especially
these are
this
the
week.
things that stuck with you for some reason about being anxious, being
Yeah.
nervous.
Wasn't college like a favorite time in your life?
Yes.
Though?
Oh, he loved it.
I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved college. I loved college campuses.
Yeah, and libraries.
Yeah.
You love going
the
to
dreams.
library.
The college campus dreams are never
Stressful.
stressful. But I can see what you're saying, that all of this ties in: the roller coaster, the elevator swaying.
Yeah.
Things
Public
that are
speaking.
anxiety.
I'm honestly
inducing.
afraid that whatever my anxiety and stuff is getting worse, like incrementally.
Yes, incrementally.
Incrementally worse. That I might have to start like looking at counseling or medication. So yeah, like it's
you can-
it's getting
You
bad.
can cut this, but do you still use
No, I'm
the
not. I'm not going
CBD?
to cut it. I'll leave it on there. No, I
No.
stopped taking the CBD
Oh.
because I felt like it wasn't having an effect on me.
Man, it is a
But like
lifesaver.
people have told me, it could be a combination of the new job, the tooth.
Well, yeah, you've
my
gone through a
friend
lot of
dying. Yeah, like
changes.
but it
the
just
pandemic.
yeah.
But
So-
it's weird that you got all my anxiety
Yeah, because you
because
have like
I have
none.
absolutely none.
You have none, so I have like
nothing ever.
I have like
Sounds
your
nice.
share of
Yeah.
anxiety. but
Nothing
it's,
ever
it's
makes
getting
me anxious.
worse
I
the older. I
Have you
get.
always been like that?
Yes.
Okay.
I never get nervous. I never get anxious. Whatever comes, I'm able to within a matter of seconds. It's not important. I
Yeah.
put it off to the side.
You can
my mantra is
compartmentalize.
kind of I can't control things. Within 10 seconds, it's out of my mind.
I
And
can't.
it's not.
My dad was always like
Yeah,
that. If
and-
I can't control it, why would I worry about
And
it?
Kurt is the complete opposite.
I am
I'm
He
the
too.
worries
complete
about
opposite. And
way too much.
you know, like the strangers, like having faith in me doing this job and just like sending me, like I'm friends with a lot of the strangers. Like they send me messages saying, I hope work's going okay. I mean, that means the world to me because it makes a difference more than you probably think it does. But that's just something I'm concerned with. So that could explain the rise in my dreams showing the college campus. And the college campus could be because it's like a comforting thing. So that could be like trying to get away from my anxiety. But then in the college campus is when I'm on the elevator that starts swaying. So it shows maybe I can't get away from it.
Yeah,
Didn't mean to go off on a
No, we're trying to analyze you.
Tangent
Dreams
there.
are very fascinating.
Oh, I'm fascinated by dreams. I'll go through times where I don't remember mine, but I still say I have never had a nightmare.
I have
and
dreams
that's
every
weird to me
night.
is that I have never had a nightmare.
Oh, I have lots of nightmares.
Yeah, you see it like in movies and TV where they wake up from like a dead sleep with just sweat, and that's never happened.
No, that's never happened
I'm the
to
same
me.
way.
Really?
No.
I can't think of
Even
a
when
nightmare.
my dreams are like the things that should be scary, it's not scary to me.
I have dreams like that a lot. And I actually have to wake Jim up sometimes. I'll hear him start freaking out when he's sleeping, and I'll have to wake him up. And the next morning, he'll be like, oh, yeah, I know you had to wake me up because I was having a bad dream, but I can't remember what it is anymore.
Yeah.
I always remember my dreams. Always. I have multiple
I just go through
dreams a
periods.
night.
I go through weeks where I don't, then all of a sudden I'm just pounded on by a week where it's just constantly remembering my dreams. But it's weird because it's almost like I don't want to say landscape, but it's almost like I know this college campus. It's almost like it's an actual place that exists.
It's sort of like I'll have a dream where I'm at my house that I grew up in, but it's not my house. It's a different house, but often it's the same made-up
I'm just
house.
fascinated by dreams. So
Yeah.
that was a good question. Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
And I think that's it.
That's it.
Is there any? Do we have any? We got the deets.
We got the deets.
You can email
it's
us
the only
at-
thing Kurt brought today. Way to go, Kurt.
It's like this is my only time I've ever had a
One
one-page
page.
show notes. So what do you think of researching this stuff? I mean, that's kind of what I do.
You know, having
And I'm not
this-
going to lie, I'm very, very scared about researching stuff coming up with my job because I'm going from having 4 days a week off to having just these 2 days.
Yeah.
So I'm a little scared. I am going to try not to let the quality drop. Giving you a warning that the next episode might be kind of shaky because that is what I was working on when I lost my job and I was super stressed, so I wasn't really focused. But this way, it's almost done already, so I don't have to worry about an
Yeah.
episode for a little while.
You know, for me, no. I mean, my job it lets
It
me
gives you something to do.
Research. I have
Unlimited.
I had 24 hours at
Yeah.
work, getting paid
Yeah.
pretty much to research this.
Yeah.
And you know,
to research Mel's hole.
listening to YouTube videos and browsing Reddit, which I do almost nonstop anyway. It really wasn't that bad, but it's just I don't want to let anybody down by making super obvious mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, or not adding something that I think, even if it gets one person, you know, to look into it and research it just for, you know, their own sake. So there's this little bit of a wanting to do you guys justice
You do great. You do great
Yeah, you
work
do
on
really
here.
and not letting down the listeners
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. But, you know, it too long for a mini mystery, you know,
No, it was
just
perfect.
some of
No,
the-
it was
perfect.
perfect. It
Yeah.
was absolutely perfect.
Some of those things that you just kind of you don't realize how far you're going to go down that well
Like I
or that
did.
hole.
Pun intended.
Go down Mel's hole.
But no, it's I don't know. It's fun to help out,
Yeah.
and you know, if I could alleviate whatever stresses you had this last
you
2
did,
week stretch.
So I truly appreciate it.
So no, it's fun. I like doing it.
Awesome.
You know, I'm definitely not the third wheel or anything. It's just
But we love having you
you
on.
guys.
Yeah.
It's your show. I just help out if I can. And
Yeah, we love having you on. I mean, open invitation.
Were you going to come on the Christmas episode?
yeah, if we decide
Maybe,
to do that,
Yeah.
maybe, because that
Okay.
would be cool.
That would be cool.
Maybe doing like a 3-person mini mystery where we each talk about one that we just think is cool, whether it's a legit thing or not. We'll have to think about that. That's a good idea. But seriously, thank you for coming on so much today.
No, thank you.
you for researching and doing a story. Krista, thank you for yours because that is a story that I absolutely love and have always loved. It's just I would love to see that house.
Mm-hmm.
Someday.
trip.
Yeah, we might have
It's like
to.
45 minutes away.
Yeah. We should. I don't want to be a drunk gawker, but. So I think that's it. So you can email us at thestrangesession@gmail.com. We are on Twitter at strange session without the S. Krista does a bang-up job on Instagram at The Strange Sessions. You can send us postcards and snail mail to The Strange Sessions, P.O. Box 434, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, 54221-0434. Phone number 920-443-9602. And thank you so much, April for our food. And
Chris for the
thank you so much,
Bigfoot.
Chris, for
That's
the awesome
amazing.
Bigfoot statue.
It's going to go safely
glue
in
it.
the closet.
Yes, we are going to put it safely in the closet for now, and we are going to glue it because it looks like it is glueable, so we should be
Yeah.
cool. So thank you so much for that. That is amazing.
It's amazing.
And I think that's it. So for now, from the Old School Media Studio, until next time,
Stay strange. This has been an Old School Media production, executive produced by Kory Konecny. For more information and content, please visit strangesessions.com.